Hrim Shrim Chitra Deviye Namaha.
Namaste everyone. So finally our journey with the moon and journey with all the phases of the moon and all the different moods of the goddess is coming to an end. Because today we are going to talk about the 15th lunar day. So the final lunar day in Shukla Paksha or Krishna Paksha. And in Shukla Paksha, the last lunar day is full moon, Purnima, the fullness of the goddess. When the goddess reaches the fullness of her potential, fullness of her light, fullness of her qualities. While in Krishna Paksha, the final stage of the journey of the goddess is her union with Shiva, when moon and sun are tightly conjunct together, where there's no moon visible on the sky at all, so we call it the dark moon, right? So it's also said that the mood of the goddess is like radically different during full moon and new moon. And you will also see, that the qualities of full moon and new moon are completely different. So actually, when we are talking about the different Tithis and the phases of the moon, one thing which we were not discussing is how these different phases of the moon, different Tithis, behave during different Pakshas. Because obviously, Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha are different. There are different qualities present in Shukla Paksha and in Krishna Paksha. So in Shukla Paksha, the goddess is slightly, getting one by one more divine quality, a little bit more light with every step of her journey. And also with every step of her journey, the moon is moving more far away from the sun. So the goddess, separates from Shiva to discover herself, to discover her true potential. Which is why usually people born during Shukla Paksha, their mind is more directed towards the outside. It's more focused on the outer things, on external things. Which is why often they might be also a little bit more into the material world. Actually, more into realizing their true potential, right? More into realizing their own power. While during Krishna Paksha, when the goddess comes back to Shiva, when the moon moves closer and closer to the sun with every step, the energy is more introverted. The energy is more, turned towards the inside. And I believe this is why in some scriptures you might see that, like waning moon is inauspicious, which is not true. It's not that it's inauspicious, it's just different form of energy, more introverted energy, which was not actually that valued even, in Vedic culture in a way. But also this is the energy which is very transformative. Because as you can imagine, if you would be the moon, right? And if you come closer and closer to the sun, and your face is turned towards the sun in Krishna Paksha, you are burned by the light of the sun, by the purifying light of the sun, which wants to purify you of all karma. And with each step that goddess is making towards the new moon, she is actually losing one of her qualities, losing her identity to surrender more to the divine, to actually understand the value of surrender, facing also, the darkness, because again, sun is blinding her. So whenever something is blinding you, you don't see properly, right? So you are forced to surrender more, which is why people born during during Krishna Paksha, they are usually much more into spirituality. And if they are not, they should be in fact, because that's their life lesson. Their life lesson is not to discover their own power, to depend on their own power. Their life lesson is to surrender, to go through any transformative experience, any difficult emotion with full faith and full trust in the divine. And this is also why it is said that during Shukla Paksha, the goddess is in the form of Lalita Mahatripura Sundari, the highest goddess and the most beautiful in the three worlds. And she's, even her name says, Lalita means the playful one. So she wants to play with the world, she wants to enjoy the world. Tripura Sundari, the most beautiful one. So she wants to discover her beauty, her potential. And it is said that the fullness of the Divine Mother in this form, Lalita Mahatripura Sundari, happens exactly on the full moon. So people born on the full moon, they will, manifest or shine the fullness of those qualities. While during Krishna Paksha, the goddess is in the mood of Kali, so the dark goddess, you know, who doesn't care how she looks like, okay? Because she's completely naked, her hair are disheveled. So she's all about, you know, coming back to Shiva. And actually in some tantric traditions, there are also 15 Kali Nityas. So 15 particles of Mother Kali who are said to also preside over 15 days of Krishna Paksha. Okay, we don't unfortunately know much about them to analyze them, but it's just interesting to know that. And the fullness of Mother Kali, or the energy of Kali, is present during new moon. Is present exactly, you know, when the moon is not visible at all, because when moon is not visible at all, you have no identity. Okay? It is said that the moon is actually not even dwelling in the sky on that day, because according to Vedic beliefs, moon actually descends into the world exactly during the new moon, enters the plants and rejuvenates them, enters the nature and rejuvenates it. So the moon is not present there, he's completely dark. And this is why also I needed to tell you, you know, these differences between Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha before we proceed, because full moon and new moon are radically different. And even though it's still the same 15th lunar day, and actually it's presided by the same goddess who is called Citra. So Citra means the colorful one. And I find it so beautiful and so fascinating that Goddess Citra is called the colorful one, you know, because ultimately, you know, all the colors of life, you know, all the different moods, they'll find their culmination in full moon and they'll find their end in new moon. Which is why full moon, you know, the moon is completely white, right? White is like the highest octave of any color, any given color. While during new moon the color is black. And if you take all the colors of life, all the moods of life, mix them all together, you will get black always. So everything also returns to the black color. And this is why I believe also the goddess here is Citra, you know, she's the colorful one, the shining one, because she has many different moods, many different qualities are present for her. And this is why it's actually really hard to just label people born on full moon or new moon. You actually really can't do that. Like we were analyzing, you know, different Tithis and natives of different Tithis. We were, you know, talking about their different qualities. When it comes to full moon or new moon, you seriously can't do that. You actually can't. Because their quality will depend so much on the fact in which nakshatra the full moon or the new moon is placed. Like everything depends on that when you're doing your analysis, really. And actually, you know, whenever you are studying Tithis, you should obviously always look also like with any Tithi, in which nakshatra the moon is dwelling in the first place. But you might be also interested in which nakshatra the sun is placed, because sun is the giver of light to the moon. So it's also important to know this thing. But specifically with full moon and new moon, you know, because the goddess is here Citra, and these people actually can be a little bit of, how to say, shapeshifters sometimes, you know. They can really change their shape and mood according to their surroundings, which is why this exact moon will change its qualities according to its surroundings. So according to the nakshatra it's dwelling in, according to the company it has, aspects it has, which is why you really just, these natives, you just can't label them. They can be like so unbelievably different. And there are certain qualities though, which all of them have. So for example, one thing, goddess is here Citra, the colorful one. So these are also the people interested in many different things, and actually very often multi-talented people, very much. One also interesting thing, because it's Purna Tithi or Eri Tithi, these are the people, like among all other Tithis, full moon or new moon natives, they really like to be in their comfort zone. And it's the hardest thing for them to leave their comfort zone. Why? Because imagine, you know, goddess here, she already either reached her fullness, or she already, you know, reached the union with Shiva. One of those two things, right? So she already reached the most comfortable place possible, in a way, okay? And this is why for these people it's sometimes, you know, hard to move out of their comfort zone, move out of their beliefs. And this is why very often you can also see them like, you know, they are with one leg here, one leg there, little bit indecisive mind, you know, like they would like to take some step, but they are still, you know, hesitating. Because what sort of motivation do they have to leave this comfortable space in which they already are, right? So that is like, you know, their kind of inner problem in a way also. Very often the biggest inner conflict actually of full moon Tithis or new moon Tithis is just, you know, this indecisiveness. That's really the quality here on which they need to work the most, and just moving out of their comfort zone. But also these are usually very creative people, usually very peaceful people too. But again, you need to take the nakshatra here of the moon, because it's going to tell you everything about the qualities of those natives. So now the question is how the full moon or the new moon influences the nakshatra, right? If we are about to analyze the nakshatra here, mostly for the moon. So what full moon is doing? Whenever the full moon, so full Chandradev, you know, reaches some nakshatra, the fullness of the qualities of this nakshatra is going to shine or manifest, okay? So either it will manifest on that day in Muhurta, or it will manifest through the person born on that lunar day. While whenever the new moon, so completely dark moon, is occupying some nakshatra, more shadow qualities of this nakshatra are going to manifest. And you can actually, even if you want, you can observe it on your own, like a couple of days before any new moon, figure out in which exact nakshatra the new moon is going to be, and you will see that these exact conflicts or issues related to that nakshatra are going to manifest in many people's lives. So new moon is in these terms a little bit more challenging, okay? Because it's more of dark energy here, let's put it like that. So new moon, you know, brings sort of this dark energy with itself sometimes. It's like it eclipses the nakshatra, you could say, in a while, you know. If you are born on new moon, you know, please don't think, you know, that it's any bad thing. It might simply mean that you might need a little bit extra time in life for you to actually develop your true potential, for you to develop your inner light, for you to learn how to shine. And if I may give you, you know, a bit of advice, if you are born on the new moon day, is please don't focus that much on material world. It most likely will not work for you, you know. Try not to be too materialistic. Try not to hang on things too much. Learn more how to let go, how to welcome things. Learn, you know, also kind of work on your attitude. Try to be a little bit more positive towards life and just work hard, you know. And if you really work hard, things will come to you. But definitely, if you're also born on New Moon Day, you also, you know, need meditation to just recharge yourself. And it is said, you know, that even New Moon himself, he actually just descends during New Moon. So he's not on the sky anymore. He descends and enters the plants, enters the nature, you know, the natural kingdom, and rejuvenates everything. So you might also need some extra rejuvenation in life. You know, you might need some extra rest, or you might need to work on your health also. So these are like the sort of things. But you will also see plenty of very successful people born on New Moon Day, specifically people who are like, how to say, very prosperous or very wealthy. So New Moon can also bring that. Actually, you know, I believe that either, you know, the starter of the Rothschild dynasty or Rockefeller dynasty, I can't remember now which one of them, was also born on New Moon Day. So yes, New Moon can bring lots of wealth, lots of prosperity, but it can also, you know, do that sometimes in some, how to say, tricky way, you know, because the sign very much connected with New Moon, and this is something I was not going too much in detail during analyzing of all these tithis, but this is something very important for you to know, that for each tithi certain signs are more important than others and influence those natives also more than others. So this is something I described really in detail in my ebook Journey with the Moon, which you can purchase also. You have the link below. But interesting thing is about the new moon, you know, because it's so influenced by Aquarius, sometimes it might use also some sort of impure or tricky means in order to get wealth or fame or whatever. Like also this sort of compensation mechanism, psychological one, you can see with those natives too. So this is something for you to really, you know, to be careful about if you are yourself new moon native. Really rather work harder, work longer, have patience, and the light will also come to you, you know, and the light will also start to shine in your life. rather than trying to go sideways. Because if you go too sideways, sometimes you might need to pay the price for that too. Full moon natives, on the other hand, usually they have a little bit more of this natural self-confidence, because full moon is energizing more, let's put it like that, the sign of Leo. Okay? So these are people who are also, you know, naturally more self-confident, or let's say they have just healthy self-esteem. That's the thing. So people born on full moon usually have healthy self-esteem, while people born on new moon often need to work on that a little bit. So that was just very short analysis of full moon and new moon, which are respectively 15th lunar day in Shukla Paksha and 15th lunar day in Krishna Paksha, so waxing and waning moon. And obviously there is so much more, you know, to learn about them. And one very important thing, specifically with full moon and new moon, which I would really love you to remember, is really you need to take the nakshatra of the moon when you are analyzing the birth chart of those natives. And in fact, you need to take the entire birth chart into account, okay? So even if you are, you know, analyzing the tithi or the lunar day of any person, always look at the tithi lord, always look at the moon, you know? Always look at those tiny little things and sensitive points in the chart of a person, because, you know, I just wouldn't like all of you to just take this series of tithis and just start to, you know, label people like that, let's put it like this. Because always you need to see the entire chart. So even if you are, you know, native of any, you know, of those tithis, doesn't mean that all those qualities will manifest through you. These are just the possibilities, you know. Similarly, like in the scriptures, you know, in scriptures always the sages were giving you just possibilities, what could possibly happen. But it doesn't mean it will always happen. For example, let's say that you are born on fiery tithi, but in your personal birth chart, watery nakshatras are completely dominant, because lots of planets are in them. Then this is going, you know, to alter your personality a little bit. But let's take another extreme. If you are born on fiery nakshatra, fiery weekday also, and lots of fiery, you know, and fiery tithi, and lots of fiery nakshatras. So lots of planets in many fiery nakshatras. This is something that we are even actually calling like tithi dosha, because by that we mean that there is just too much of exact element present in you, which might affect your health, your emotional health, your, you know, psychology and everything. So this also needs to be balanced in some way. So I just really wanted to bring at the end of this journey with the moon, which you went with me through all the 15 phases in these videos, I just really want to bring your attention to this thing. Please never judge, you know, the entire chart, and more likely don't even judge the entire person, you know, just because of the tithi or just one single little planetary placement. Because all of us, you know, we are fullness, we are one whole, not just one part, right? So this would be really my last message to you. And one more thing, maybe this would be the most proper last message. If you want to learn yourself more about the tithis, please just go to nature and observe nature. Observe how nature is changing. Observe, you know, how animals are changing, how plants are changing on different phases of the moon, because you can learn so much just from that. Even observe how weather is changing. You can really see even those things. So this is something that I would really highly recommend you, because nature is really the best astrology teacher ever. And all these sages who wrote all these scriptures, guess what? They always lived close to nature. They were learning from nature. And this is how they created, you know, all these scriptures. This is how they were connecting to the divine too. So that would be really my last message for you. Thank you so much for being with me on this entire journey with the moon. If you would like to learn much more about tithis, you can also purchase my ebook, Journey with the Moon. You can join me on my Patreon community, where we are having 2 times a month webinars as well, mostly about the tithis so far, but we are going to have some other ones too very soon. And by doing that, obviously you also support me in doing this sort of videos for you. And you can also join me, if you wish, on 4 weeks long course with Cosmic Insights, just on the sacred lunar phases, just about the tithis. So thank you so much for this entire journey. It was a real pleasure to be with all of you, and see you next time, any other time. We are going to see when it's going to be. Namaste.